All right, let's get right into it. We're taking a trip to a pretty remote, sun-baked bay on the Baja California Peninsula. Now, this place is absolutely pulsing with life, but it's got this incredibly heavy name, Ensenada de Muertos, which means the Bay of the Dead. So today, we're going to unpack how it got a name like that, and more importantly, how that story is being completely rewritten as we speak.
So, you have to ask yourself, right? Why on earth would a place that's teeming with jumping rays and pods of orcas be called the Bay of the Dead? That's the real mystery here. And the name, it isn't just a label on a map. It's like an archaeological site all on its own, a real testament to the many, many ghosts that haunt this coastline.
You know, to really get what this place is all about, we've got to peel back those layers. The story isn't just one single event. It's more like a whole series of tragedies written in the sand and bone over thousands of years.
So that name Muertos, it's not from just one thing. It's actually built up from layers of death spread out across millennia. I mean, for at least 10,000 years, the ancient Paraku people saw this as sacred ground. They had these unique burials where they'd paint the bones of their dead with red ochre. Then, centuries later, it becomes a battlefield during the Paraku Revolt in 1734. And everyone, indigenous warriors, Spanish soldiers, they were buried right where they fell. And then you have the local stories from around 1902 about a ship quarantined for the plague, just abandoned in the bay, its passengers left to die, waiting for a doctor that just never showed up. See? The name isn't from one story, it's from all of them combined.
But you know, the ghosts here aren't only human. They're also the ghosts of failed dreams. For centuries, outsiders, we're talking everyone from conquistadors to modern-day swindlers, they've looked at this bay and seen just one thing: a resource to be plundered. And for just as long, the bay has, well, it's fiercely rejected them.
And this cycle of failure is just repeated itself over and over. Back in 1535, Hernan Cortés himself, the big guy, he was lured by these wild myths of Amazon queens and islands of gold, and he tried to build a colony here to farm pearls. It lasted less than a year. The land was just too dry, too hostile. Okay, now fast forward almost 500 years. Modern developers show up with their own myths. Luxury resorts, private beaches. They even tried to rebrand the place Bahía de los Sueños, the Bay of Dreams. But just like Cortés, they got beat by reality. No water, no infrastructure. Today, it's just a ghost resort being swallowed back up by the desert.
But here's the twist. While all these outsiders were failing to take from the bay, a local community found a totally different kind of wealth. And they found it not by extracting, but by coexisting. This is the story of a little village called Agua Amarga.
The whole success of Agua Amarga really rests on the shoulders of its founding families. You've got the Luceros, who are legends for being able to read the water, the Giraldos, total masters of the Paña fishing boat, and the Greens, who kind of brought together foreign and local know-how. Now, these folks didn't sit around waiting for some resort to give them jobs. No way. They took what they already had, their boats, their skills, their deep, deep understanding of the sea, and they built a world-class, sustainable ecotourism model right from the ground up.
And wow, what a foundation to build on. This bay is a global hotspot. It's the place Jacques Cousteau famously called the world's aquarium. We're talking about huge migrations of mobile arrays that literally leap out of the water by the thousands. We're talking playful sea lion colonies, gentle whale sharks, and of course, the stars of the show, humpback whales that come here to have their babies, and a thriving pod of eastern tropical Pacific orcas, famous for putting on these spectacular hunting displays right off the coast. It's incredible.
So all of this, it leads to this really dramatic reversal of fortune. The story of this bay becomes a tale of two very different populations. The original human inhabitants who are almost completely wiped out, and the marine inhabitants who are now making this celebrated comeback, all thanks to a radical change in how humans behave.
Before anyone else was here, this was the land of the Paraku, the Guaycura, and the Cochimi peoples. And for over 10,000 years, they were the masters of this coastline. Expert sailors, incredible divers, they didn't just live on the land, they lived with the sea. But when the Spanish missions arrived, their entire world was shattered.
This number, it's just staggering. It's hard to even comprehend. Between the start of the mission period in 1697 and 1835, the indigenous population of the Baja Peninsula just collapsed. They went from an estimated 60,000 people down to only about 1,500. And the primary killer wasn't even war. It was old world diseases they had absolutely no immunity to. It was a near total extinction event. And yet, in the most stunning contrast to that human tragedy, the bay's marine life is having a full-blown renaissance. The local orcapod, just as one example, has grown by 15% in just the last 5 years. The population is actually expanding, with at least 3 new calves spotted recently. And the reason is simple: a healthy, protected ecosystem and a community that has decided to become their guardians. So how'd they do it? They did it with something we can call the Agua Amarga method. It's basically a set of community rules that are now official government policy. They never, ever chase the animals. If an orca gets close, the engine goes into neutral. Simple. They put a hard cap on the number of boats allowed in the bay each day. And the guides, people like the second-generation leader Mayra Lucero, they act like citizen scientists, carefully logging data on every single encounter they have.
And all this has created something scientists are calling the safe harbor effect. It's a kind of trust, but it's passed down through generations of animals. Orca mothers are literally teaching their calves that those specific blue and white panga boats from Agua Amarga are safe, that they're just a neutral part of their world. This learned behavior has created this unbelievable level of peaceful, curious interaction between people and these apex predators.
So what does this all add up to? Well, it means the community of Agua Amarga is actively, consciously rewriting the legacy of their home. They are changing the very meaning of the name Huertos.
They have literally turned a graveyard of failed colonies and ghost resorts into a living, breathing sanctuary. The local ejido, which is a form of communally owned land, they now hold all the power. And they have set these non-negotiable environmental standards for any new development, making sure that the extractive failures of Cortés and the modern developers can never, ever be repeated. They've proven that true value doesn't come from taking, it comes from stewardship.
Which really just leads us with one final thought. Ensenada de Muertos was named for its past. But the people of Agua Amarga, they're defining it by its future. A future of life, of respect, of coexistence. And it really makes you wonder, what if a place's true name isn't what happened there, but what's happening there right now?